sorry. Hi, kids. No, sorry. You gosh. No, hi, everyone. I'm Randy. Sorry.
Kristen.
Welcome to the Crossing Kin Garage. And welcome to Crossing Kin. Sorry. Wow. I don't know what overcame me. It must be all this Disney talk we've been doing this month. Today we've got a good one for you. Thank you for tuning in to Crossing Kin, your family entertainment YouTube channel, with me and Kristen as your host. We're so excited that you're here. We're going to take a look at Kristen's ranking of every theatrically wholly animated Disney films. Now what this means is there's no live action whatsoever in these films. She will serve as Siskel and Ebert, for that matter.
Make sure you check out Dad's, probably over his head, version of this list from 2 weeks ago, where he ranked the Disney films based on their soundtrack.
We went through every film that had,
2 or more songs.
Go watch it. We tell you the criteria. Let us know what you think. I confess that I may or may not be a music critic, but you get to be the judge. Welcome to Today, we are so excited. Just like last time, with the exception of Fantasia, movies with extended live action sequences do not qualify for her ranking. However, we are considering doing a video highlighting those hybrid films, those films that have live action as well as animation.
Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Pete's Dragon, etc., etc.
Let us know in the comments down below if that's a video you'd like to see us do. With that all said and done, all other movies are contenders, musical or otherwise. If it was animated and released in theaters, it should be on this list. Please, if we missed something, again, let us know. We love to hear from you.
A little bit of a warning, for lack of a better word. Strange Worlds, the most recent Disney animated release, is not on this list. We made this list before Strange Worlds was released. Quite honestly, it didn't look like a film that would appeal to me that much. I'm sorry if anybody's mad about that. If you love Strange Worlds, please tell me how good it is in the comments below. I will probably get around to seeing it one of these days, and if I do, I will make a community post telling you where it wound up. Beyond that, just another fair warning. If I associate any of these films with mild childhood trauma, a la Nightmares, it's going to be lower on this list.
Okay, now on with the countdown.
We have 56 of these, so buckle in.
Number 56. There we go. Disney's Home on the Range. If you were with us in the music video, you already understand the specific disdain that someone has for this particular film. I've not seen it, therefore I withhold judgment until such a time. In the Disney canon, this film contains the first villain song since the Hunchback of Notre Dame's song, Hellfire.
Released April 2nd, 2004. Guys, I saw this movie for the sole purposes of this video. I honestly went into it thinking maybe it was too harshly criticized. No. It was perfectly abolished. I don't know what Disney was thinking. I think I said in the last video the 2000s were kind of a dark age for Disney, a second dark age, if you will. This is one of the things that came out of it. Dame Judi Dench and Cuba Gooding Jr. have no business being in this terrible movie. They are too good for this movie, and I wish I could forget it, but I can't. But moving on.
At number 55 comes the May 19th, 2000 film, Dinosaur. It's the first film in what is starting to become known as Disney's experimental era, as well as being Disney's first wholly 3D animated film. One could say that Alice in Wonderland was a little experimental Fantasia, perhaps. Never mind. So, your thoughts?
Okay, so this movie is not inherently bad. I just found it incredibly boring. It was like watching paint dry, and honestly, the paint drying would have been more entertaining. Something I read when kind of researching this movie was that it was initially meant to be a silent film with the, I think, James Newton Howard score being the driving force. And I think maybe it should have stayed that way. I think putting in the celebrity voice cast and adding a bunch of dumb jokes, the Love Monkey is the most dumb thing after Home on the Range I've ever seen. So I think maybe they should have taken that risk and made it a silent movie. Maybe it would have still flopped. This is probably one of their biggest box office bombs, I believe. So yeah, it's not Home on the Range levels of bad, but I think maybe they should have embraced the experimental era and let it be a silent movie. I think it would have been really cool if they had.
Coming in at number 54 is the film from 2005, specifically November the 4th of 2005, Chicken Little. It's one of the final films of legendary actor Don Knotts. He plays the turkey mayor.
So I will confess, this is one of those movies I believe we saw in theaters.
We saw it at the Rialto, for sure.
I vaguely remember seeing it at the Rialto.
Which is our classic theater here in Searcy that is on the Historic Register of Places.
Yeah, so I remember seeing it in theaters. And I would, in 2005, I would have been 9. And I was a very easily entertained child. So Chicken Little was fine when I was a kid. Returning to it as an adult, yikes. First off, it has the worst Disney parent I've ever seen. Chicken Little's dad is awful. He is awful to his son, but that's a whole separate rant that would take more time than I want this video to be. Also, there's a tone issue. Like, it starts out as a coming-of-age story, which, okay, valid, fine, sure. Then it changes into a sports movie. Then it changes into a sci-fi film. And there's never a very good bridge in between each of these changes. Like, there have been movies that mix and match whatever their tone changes are, but this movie does not do it very well. So, there are a couple of moments where I think it's funny. Steve Zahn's runt of the litter. We love Steve Zahn, so him being one of the voices is funny, but not all of his jokes land. So he has some moments, and then Don Knotts just literally coming in and going, "A penny!" every 5 minutes is very funny to me.
Now, number 53, we continue. Ralph Breaks the Internet. November 21st, 2018 is when it released. The cameos of this film are extremely impressive, boasting the talents of not only most of the original voice actresses for the Disney princesses, but also Tim Allen, who voiced Buzz Lightyear, Brad Garrett, who later on would voice Eeyore in the Winnie the Pooh films, as well as be doing a role in Tangled, if I recall.
Yes, sir.
Anthony Daniels from Star Wars fame as C-3PO also gives a voice cameo in this film.
Y'all, I wanted very much to like this movie. You're going to see later that I actually do hold the first Wreck-It Ralph in high regards. This is the most cash-grabby, hollow, and just dated. It came out, what, 2018?
2018.
It is already so dated. It is the most 2018 movie you'll ever see. None of the characters are likable anymore. I don't know what they did between movies, but they somehow turned these characters very unlikable, except for Fix-It Felix and Calhoun. They're both very likable still, but they're barely in the movie. So it just, I wanted so badly for this movie to be good, and they decided to, they went away from their video game roots and went into the pop culture internet, and it just became the most dated thing ever. And it was unfunny. The characters were unlikable. The best part of it was the Disney princess section, but that is because I like the Disney princesses. So
that throwback to nostalgia, perhaps,
yes,
was a try to try and redeem the film.
Yes, it was a complete nostalgia trip. Okay,
at number 52, we have Dumbo, which also appeared relatively low in my music countdown as well. It came out October 23rd of 1941. Many may not know that this film is based on a children's book of the same name by Helen Oberson and illustrated by Harold Pearl.
This is the most depressing movie I've ever seen. This is the most depressing movie I've ever seen. And again, I saw this as a child. I thought, ooh, pretty elephant in circus. Nope, that is not at all what this movie is. This, and Pink Elephants on Parade gave me nightmares.
It's frightening.
It's a trippy sequence, and my little 6-year-old brain was not prepared for trippy. The songs are sad. I don't like the mouse because he's a terrible guardian. He allows Dumbo to get drunk and thus have the Pink Elephants on Parade trip.
Needless to say, he was supposed to have been an archetype of Jiminy Cricket.
Yes.
And it just doesn't do a good job.
Timothy is a terrible conscience. And I just, the happy ending of Dumbo getting revenge, it's not enough for me to actually... It doesn't feel like a happy ending because we've gone through an hour of sadness and get like 4 minutes worth of a happy ending. 4 minutes is not enough to erase the depression you just gave 6-year-old me.
And now number 51. This is heralded as one of Disney's greatest films. We personally, we're not fans. Musically as well as the countdown. Hence its number 51 ranking. This is the film Pinocchio. It released in February 7th of 1940. The story based on Carlo Collodi was the most retold story of 2022, with 3 separate films, including a Disney live-action remake, being released before the year's end.
Yeah. I don't know why 2023 was obsessed with Pinocchio. I really, really don't, but it was. But I've never understood the fascination with Pinocchio to begin with. Dad said a lot of my same opinion in his video. I will say this, I'm partial to the Give a Little Whistle song. I think that is probably the happiest song in the score. But beyond that, this movie is also depressing. The Pleasure Island section, the entirety of the Pleasure Island section gave me nightmares for a week after I first saw it. Add Monster onto that, it was another week wherein I needed Dad and Mom to assure me that there was not a giant whale gonna suddenly kill me in my sleep. So, or I was gonna get taken away to an evil amusement park. Like, it was not a good time for 6-year-old Kristen when she saw this movie. For the first time. And like I said at the top, childhood trauma has a place on this list for me. I'm sorry, but it does.
We appreciate you staying with us. There's still 50 films left. So again, go grab a break, press pause, do the restroom, get your energy drink, but be patient. We've got a lot more to cover, and we'll do it relatively quickly. At number 50, Bambi. Oh, wait, give us a moment. Yeah, okay, got to get over her mom. August 13th of 1942. All of the child versions of the characters in this film were voiced by actual children at Walt Disney's insistence, which was unusual for the time, as typically adults would mimic a child's voice.
Unlike a lot of people, I don't actually have trauma associated with Bambi. Here's the thing. I grew up in the South. I knew what hunting season was.
That's a very good point.
Even at age 6, I fully knew. The minute they said man is in the forest, I'm like, oh, okay, so yep, I know exactly what's going to happen. So I mentally prepared myself before we even got to the section of Bambi's mom, because even at age 6, I knew, yeah, hunting season exists. So I don't actually have trauma associated with Bambi. My thing against Bambi is that it's boring to me. It's pretty in places, but it's an hour and 6 minutes, I think, and it doesn't get entertaining at all to me until the last 15 when the forest is on fire. And again, the animation especially for the time is breathtaking. All the colors and all the drawing, it's gorgeous. And the animal characters are, when they're kids, they're very cute. They're not as cute when they're grown up, but they're very cute as kids. If it doesn't entertain me, it's gonna be low on the list. I'm sorry. And again, we talked about it in the music video. Drip, drip, drop, little April showers. It's fun. I mean, it's fun, and it's a springtime. It's one of those rare songs in some of these lower counted Disney films that match what it's talking about. So let's continue on, and the countdown rolls on. Number 49.
Coming in at number 49 is the Arthurian take from Disney called The Sword in the Stone. It was released on Christmas Day, 1963. It's the last film that Disney produced as he died during the production of The Jungle Book.
Again, as much as I wanted to love this movie, I remember watching this a lot as a kid, and I remember this is one of the first Disney movies I ever fell asleep during.
Wow.
And I can't really explain why. Like, I remember going to sleep when they first turn into, like, fish, and then waking up and suddenly they were squirrels. And I'm like, what happened? And then I was thoroughly entertained for the rest of the movie because Madame Mim shows up to actually be entertaining. This movie is underrated. This is a movie that everybody needs to see. It is underrated. But it does not have the best music, and it is very slow after Higgitus Figgitus. Once we get Merlin to the castle with Arthur, or Wart as he's called through most of the movie, it gets really, really slow. And I'm curious, I don't know the book. I've never read the book. So if that is how it goes in the book, let me know. But honestly, it feels like padding. It feels like a great deal of padding. So, yeah.
Number 48. Get ready for your trip. Alice in Wonderland. July 28th of 1951 is when the film was released. It has more songs and characters than any other Disney animated film.
Dad can attest to this because he probably remembers. I wasn't allowed to watch this movie after my first viewing of it because it gave me nightmares for ages.
We see a trend developing.
Yes,
here.
Again, childhood trauma plays a part in this lower list. And it's not even the entire movie. It is two specific sections. The Walrus and the Carpenter section, where the walrus eats all of those sentient baby oysters, and then Chesh, the Cheshire Cat. Just him smiling freaked me out.
She still has a problem with the silver moon on some occasions as we're coming home.
I say there's Chesh's smile. It doesn't give me nightmares, but that's still what I associate it with. And it is made worse by the fact he's voiced by Winnie the Pooh. That is supposed to be the most comforting voice, and it's given to this demon cat. I'm allergic to cats, so I'm already inclined not to like cats. So this did not help matters. Anyway, moving right along. Story by Lewis Carroll. We recommend that you do go and read the book. It is as well trippy. A good bit of it is gibberish, though.
Right. Next, number 47, Fantasia, released November 13th, 1940. The Sorcerer's Apprentice segment of this film is where Mickey Mouse's iconic blue hat and red robe look originated.
Which I think is probably his more iconic look. No disrespect to his red pants, but I like his cloak and hat, personally. Fantasia is good. It is too long for its own good, and it is hampered. It is hampered by one specific thing. It would have been so much better were it not for this one specific thing. The live action man that is emceeing this thing. Walt should have emceed, or somebody else should have emceed. This dude that is doing the introduction, the intros and outros of all of these segments is not the conductor. He's not the man waving his hands, so he has no real business being there. He's there to MC.
What's so ironic is Walt did MC many of the Wonderful World of Disney nights on Sunday nights.
Maybe he was busy doing something else at the time the live action sections of Fantasia were filmed. I just feel like if Disney or somebody with an actual personality was the one doing the intros and outros, it wouldn't be as hard to get through. The animation is lovely. Again, for its time, it is gorgeous. Night on Bald Mountain is epic in its animation, and Sorcerer's Apprentice is astounding with its animation. I just think if this one block of wood was not being the master of ceremonies, it would have been so much better.
Tell us how you really feel. Wow. Okay, moving along. Number 46, Sleeping Beauty, January 25th, 1959. Princess Aurora has fewer spoken lines than any other Disney princess. with only 18 total lines of dialogue spoken through the whole movie.
I know the fairy tale, so I know they didn't really have a choice as far as that goes. The Once Upon a Dream section is very beautiful. Philip is probably one of the better Disney princes in existence. Personal opinion, I think Prince Philip rocks. And Maleficent is a great villain. She's a legit scary villain, which is not something I can say about every Disney villain. See Home on the Range for an example of a terrible Disney villain.
I think we're going back to that on occasion.
Yes, we will. But yeah, it has good qualities. It's just, again, it's a little boring. Like Dad said in his video, it is a bit of a snooze. And until you get to the dragon, which is in the last 15 minutes, it doesn't wake up any. So it has its moments, it has its charms. It's just not one of my favorites.
Number 45. At number 45 is Raya and the Last Dragon. March 5th, 2021, making it one of the more recent of the Disney films. Raya is the first non-Pixar Disney princess not to sing. Sad day. Second princess behind Brave's Merida.
I wanted so badly to like this movie. I love dragons. Dragons are some of the coolest things in mythology to me. And again, this is one of the more boring movies I have seen. I wanted it to be cool. It's got a phenomenal voice cast. Awkwafina plays the dragon. Kelly Marie Tran from The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Rose from the sequel trilogy plays Raya. Daniel Day Kim plays her dad. Like, there is some phenomenal voice actors in this flick. And despite the fact that one of the main characters is a dragon that jumps around on magic water in the sky, it is some of the most boring stuff I have seen from Disney in a long time. I wanted so badly to like it. I did. It looked like a movie that I would just be all over. It looked like an action road trip movie. And it is some of the most boring stuff I've ever seen. I am sorry. I wanted to like this movie. I did. But I was bored. I'm sorry.
No apologies necessary. You're the critic. You get to say it. Number 44, The Black Cauldron. Released July 26th, 1985. This is the first Disney animated film to receive a PG rating from the MPAA.
This is another one of those I'd never seen before watching it for this list. And I was equal parts pleasantly surprised and disappointed. I'd heard that this was one of the worst Disney movies ever. It's not that. It is actually pretty okay. There are some moments where it's really dumb. Now, I've actually recently learned it is based on books. I did not know it was based on books. And if the books have a particular plot element in them, then that writer must have made it sound not as dumb as it's about to sound coming out of my mouth. One of the main plot points, the literal MacGuffin of this film, is a psychic pig.
Woo Pig Sooie.
Yeah, no, not that kind of pig.
Sorry.
If it was a razorback, it would be okay. But no, this is an actual female pig that the Horned King, who is a fantastic, terrifying villain, by the way, is after. And every time there's a bit of dramatic tension, the words out of their mouth are, "Bring me that pig," and I'm just like, that pig? Beyond that, it's fine. The female character she starts out cool and then devolves to lame. There are a few characters I think could have easily been cut. This movie did have to be heavily cut down, so I feel like a lot of plot stuff wound up disappearing when that happened. They had to be cut down just to get the MPAA to give them a PG.
Wow.
So, yeah, like, I'd love to see a director's cut of this just to see if some of the problems I have with it are maybe fixed by that. I think this is a movie that would benefit greatly from a live-action remake. If they could possibly find a way to make the psychic pig not sound stupid. Again, if that is a part of the book, let me know. If it's not a part of the book, they should have changed it to a dog, a mouse, a bird. Anything but a pig would have probably been better.
Number 43, The Fox and the Hound. This is a film that's endeared by millions of people. It came out July 10th, 1981. And a little surprising that it's as low on this list as it is. This was the 10th Disney movie that Kurt Russell acted in, as well as the only animated film he did. He plays a grown-up copper.
I do love this movie. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. But, however, there are moments in this movie I remember wanting to turn it off simply because I am a dog lover and I don't care if Chief is the bad guy. I don't like seeing dogs get hurt. I don't like seeing a big bear attack all these cute cuddly creatures, and I don't appreciate the moment when Widow Tweed leaves Todd in the forest to fend for himself. He's a fox that has been pampered his whole life. He doesn't know how to do that.
And now we'll take your donation for the ASPCA.
So I just, that is the reason it's lower than it probably should be. I take issue with some of the cute characters, and also I like the best friend stuff, so I don't appreciate the you can't be friends stuff. It's just, and then I don't like when Copper and Todd actually do fight. I don't appreciate it at all. So
remind me who Todd was voiced by.
Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney, classic, just incredibly gifted actor that we see all the way up into Night at the Museum, acting, continuing to act. He has been around Hollywood for a gazillion years.
Died the year Night at the Museum 3 came out.
Right, and this film was one of the only things that he did as an animated feature as well.
I believe so, yeah. The only other thing I want to say about this, with the exception of Big Mama, who I think was voiced by Pearl Bailey. I know she did the singing for her. Yeah. I wasn't sure if she did her actual voice. The other two birds could have been cut. That whole B plot with them trying to get that caterpillar could have been cut. The entirety of it.
I agree.
The little kid Todd and Copper were cute enough and added enough humor. Chief added a good bit of humor. The Amos, I think was his name, Chief and Copper's owner. He added a good bit of humor. We didn't need the bird plot.
And Chief was voiced by veteran voice actor Pat Buttram.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Who is continually in Disney films.
I recognize his voice now.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, he's the sheriff.
Sheriff Nottingham.
We'll talk about Robin Hood in a little bit.
Moving right along, number 42. Coming in at 42 is Frozen 2, released November 22nd, 2019. The film utterly destroys the beautifully interconnect fan theory that fans have built around Frozen, which involved other films, including Tangled, Tarzan, and The Little Mermaid. Please elaborate on that.
Okay, so the fan theory was that Elsa and Anna's parents were going to Rapunzel and Eugene's wedding, which is why Rapunzel and Eugene are in Frozen during the First Time in Forever section. They're shipwrecked, but they survived, landing on Africa and then having Tarzan. Their ship was the ship that Ariel swims through during The Little Mermaid. So in that fan theory, Tarzan is actually Anna and Elsa's little brother. Timing wise, it worked out. All of the pieces worked beautifully, and then Frozen 2 utterly destroyed it by saying, nope, we were trying to find a way to get rid of Elsa's powers or something like that, and nope, there's the ship, it's nowhere underwater, and nope, nowhere near Africa. So, boo!
That flushing noise you hear is continuity going right down the
Well, it's not continuity. It was a fan theory, but still, fans
It was a fun fan theory.
Fans loved it. Beyond that, my other issues with Frozen 2 is that it rings hollow. This whole movie has a very hollow feeling. And what made it worse, this was the last movie we saw in theaters before the pandemic. Dad and I were going to do my Christmas shopping, and we decided to go see a movie before. And rather than going to see Jumanji The Next Level or Knives Out or anything else that was in theaters at the time, we went and saw Frozen 2 because the first Frozen was so good. Why not think this one would be? And it was so hollow to
It
me.
just seems like I remember us coming out of the theater going,
What? Why? Where did the charm go? That is the biggest issue I have with
that's
this movie.
valid, yes.
This movie loses all charm. It tries to go for epic adventure and it loses the charm. Josh Gad's Olaf tries, but he comes off as annoying. Kristoff is the most annoying, useless character in this movie, and he gets the absolute worst song in the score. I can't stand Lost in the Woods. I cannot stand the Bohemian Rhapsody send-up that is Lost in the Woods. Nothing against Jonathan Groff singing. He can sing like nobody's business, but I cannot stand that song. Some of the music is good. Again, like Daddy alluded to last time, these songwriters were busy writing the theme songs for WandaVision, which are fantastic. So maybe that split their focus at the time. This should have been so much better than it was. It was charmless and it was hollow to me. And now Frozen 3 is coming, and I can promise you I will not be seeing it in theaters. I will be waiting for Disney Plus if I see it at all.
However, if Disney is any indicator of what Hollywood does on occasion, sometimes those third films...
Maybe the third film will redeem it. I would love it if the third film would redeem it.
A la Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, sure. Let the third film redeem it. I'd be fine with that. It needs to have charm and it needs to have not hollowness.
Hey, writers and producers of Frozen 3.
Bring the charm back. If nothing else, bring the charm back. It doesn't even necessarily have to come from Olaf. Let Kristoff become charming.
That was funny.
Yeah.
He's the Prince Charming.
Well,
it.
Well, technically, he's kind of the king now because Anna's queen, and they're getting married. So.
Frozen 3.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Move on.
Moving on. Number 41. Winnie the Pooh. Now, this is not the one that you think it might be.
No.
This is from July 15th, 2011. As of this recording, this is the last traditionally animated 2D animation Disney feature.
Which is very, very sad. This is not the movie I wanted 2D animation to go out on. A positive first, John Cleese,
yes,
of Monty Python fame, is the narrator of this.
and he does a very good job.
Very good job.
It's like he does channel his inner Sebastian Cabot.
And I think this is the movie where Brad Garrett began doing his Eeyore voice. And he is fantastic. Eeyore is the one character that is still the character I remembered from Many Adventures.
Brad Garrett coming from Everybody Loves Raymond.
But here's the thing. With the exception of Eeyore and Christopher Robin, who is still very Christopher Robin, it is impossible to mess him up as a character because he's just a cute kid that disappears for most of the movie. Everybody else's worst traits are dialed up to 11. Rabbit is a jerk. Owl is a I will not listen to you know-it-all. Tigger is hyper to the point he legit does break the book. And Pooh's stomach is sentient. Like, literally, it drags him across the screen on multiple occasions. Yes, Pooh Bear was always hungry, but he was not hungry to the point that he ignored his friend's basic needs. Kanga's whole mother thing, it also becomes a little bit annoying. Roo is fine, but Roo is in Kanga's pouch for most of the film. Piglet also stays fairly the same. He actually does get a bit of a better arc in this than he does in most Pooh Bear features. But he's still, bless his heart, a coward through most of it. And he nearly leaves his friends in a pit because he's so scared. So, I mean, you took these beautiful, charming, precious characters and chose to emphasize the worst traits. Yes, Rabbit's always been bossy, but he humbles at the end of every story. Yes, Owl's always been a brainiac, but he does at least listen. And like I already did Pooh Bear's defense, I already did Piglet's. Tigger's never been break the book. He's been destructive, but he's not broken the book before.
Yeah. If you've watched very many Crossing Kin any of our videos, you'll understand that we're not really big fans of covers. Mm-hmm. And this, in our opinion, is an attempt to cover a previously precious.
And because they dial everybody's worst traits up to 11,
right.
It feels disrespectful. It feels a little disrespectful to A.A. Milne.
Yes.
And the original Winnie the Pooh done by Disney.
And the voice cast of the original Winnie the Pooh. So it's we don't like
no
covers.
offense to Jim Cummings, though. You are still a shining star in the Winnie the Pooh. You were just given terrible material, because I think you voiced both Pooh and Tigger.
Without doubt. Yes. Prolific voice character actor.
All right, number 40.
We're not going to stop till we get to the top.
We finally hit 40.
Number 40. This is not Casey's program, but we hit the top 40. Moving on. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The big one. The first one. Came out December 21st. Get this. 1937. You may not have realized that came out in the 30s. That is incredible for this film. Coming in at number 40, though, Disney Studios in Burbank, California, was built with the profits from this film. Big time moneymaker.
I get that this is a very iconic movie. I don't have much to say about it, though. It's never been one of my favorites. I can't explain why.
Moving
right on.
Along.
Let's go.
Hi-ho! It's down the count we go. Number 39, The Nightmare Before Christmas. October 29th, 1993. I thought this film was newer than that. This is the first stop-motion animated film to be rated PG by the MPAA.
Yeah, there was a lot of PG that happened from the 80s to the 90s for Disney. Again, this was one of those I hadn't seen. I saw it for the first time this past weekend with Dad, and I came to a realization while watching it. I'm not the biggest fan of stop motion, and I'm not the biggest fan of Tim Burton.
I like Tim Burton's film.
I am a big fan of Danny Elfman, and his music was very good.
Boingo, boingo, baby!
But
sorry.
Because I'm not the hugest fan of the man who came up with the idea, and I'm not the biggest fan of stop motion, I could not in good conscience put it any higher on this list, just because it would be a lie. It was a fine story, the music was good, it's just not my cup of tea.
We're not sure if it's Halloween or Christmas. Maybe it's the Two-Faced Mayor. Halloween on one side, Christmas on the other. We don't know. But we shall proceed.
Yes, please.
Now, 38. Number 38 at Zootopia. March 4th, 2016. This was the fourth consecutive Disney film for actor Alan Tudyk, whom we adore. Absolutely adore. Following roles in Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, and Big Hero 6.
Alright. So, I'm going to make this as brief as I can. This movie is fine. It is fine. But I do not think it's this big hallmark, oh my goodness, this film is going to solve all the world's problems, that a lot of people make it out to be. Honestly, I think this is a film that gets lost in its message. It is so devoted to its message. And sure, it is a good message. It is a good message for people to hear. Please don't get me wrong. But it is so concerned with making sure its message is seen in the big neon flashing lights. Here is the message! That a lot of the characters and everything, it just winds up falling flat. Also, it is a perpetrator of something that I have come to find deeply annoying in Disney, the twist villain. We'll talk more about that as we go on. But yeah, I wanted to like Zootopia more than I do. The song Try Everything is good if you don't think too hard about the try everything that we're trying to try. But anyway, yeah.
Which could be a Disney song in all of its own.
Try everything that we're trying to try. But anyway, yeah. I think it gets a little lost in its message. Jennifer Goodwin does a fantastic job as Judy Hopps. I cannot remember who voices Nick Wilde, but he also does a great job. Voice casting is fantastic. I just think the message causes the rest of the story to get lost.
Fantastic. At number 37, it's the classic Peter Pan. So many iterations of this story. So many. musicals on Broadway, film adaptations. Just incredible.
Most recent live action remake is on Disney Plus now. It is being torn apart by critics. We've not seen it yet, though. So
we have seen, however, Finding Neverland, which we absolutely adore.
Highly recommend. Johnny Depp and Freddie Highmore.
Yeah, incredible film. Go and watch Finding Neverland. But back to Peter Pan. Source material. Here we go. Walt Disney himself was dissatisfied with this film that came out February 5th, 1953. He felt Peter Pan came off as cold. However, experts on the original author, J.M. Barrie, who Johnny Depp plays, insisted that the depiction was spot on.
Johnny Depp plays him in Finding Neverland. But anyway, my issues with Peter Pan are very, very simple. I don't like Peter and I don't like Tinkerbell.
Proving the point.
I kind of agree with Walt. Peter is very cold, very selfish, and I get that is how he is meant to be characterized. In the book, he's actually way worse.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but at Disney, I see through your attempts to sanitize Tinkerbell with all the cute little 3D animated movies you've given her. She's a psychopath. She straight up tries to murder Wendy. These Lost Boys are not safe with that fairy or with Peter. Again, read the book if you want to find out how unsafe they are with Peter. Honestly, I'm rooting for the pirates.
Mr. Smee!
Mr. Smee is probably one of my favorite Disney sidekicks ever. He is precious and perfect. And Captain Hook, for all of his bluster, is one of the more entertaining Disney villains. He earns his place in the Disney villain canon.
We should do a countdown.
We will. That might be something we do in October.
Disney villain countdown
season. Put your picks in the comments below.
Please do.
We will take a look at those. All right, move right along. Peter Pan is fine. It's just if you don't like the main characters, you're not going to like the flick. If you're rooting for the villains, I mean, come on.
It's good.
All right.
Number 36 is Hercules, June 27th, 1997. While this film is about Greek myths, Hercules his name is Roman. He's a protagonist from Roman mythology. His Greek name is Heracles.
So, about a year ago, maybe two, was when I first ever actually heard the entirety of Heracles' story, or at the very least a very helpful summary of it. I may link that in the description for anybody who wants to see it. As such, as somebody who knows the myth, firstly, having Hera viewed as Hercules' mom is wrong, and her being a loving mom is equally wrong. She doesn't even like her own kids in Greek mythology. Also, having Hades as the bad guy is equally wrong.
I will, however, say
James Woods does a great job.
Phenomenal job.
He's an entertaining villain. You shouldn't have made it Hades, though. Pick another person. Ares. Literally anybody else from Greek mythology would have been better than Hades, because Hades is kind of the most chill person in Greek mythology. I will say I like all of the Muses stuff. I like all the music. Megara is probably one of the cooler Disney female protagonists. She's not a Disney princess because there's a whole thing with the Disney princesses. Apparently, the only qualifier you have to be a Disney prince is to marry one of the princesses, so Hercules isn't technically a Disney prince either.
Interesting.
I'll explain that to you later. But anyway, Megara is cool. I like the Danny DeVito satyr, even though that satyr is not who trained Heracles in the myth. There's just so much mythological inaccuracy, and I like the 12 Labors of Hercules myth. I like the myth. It is a good story. And it's sad because I get that they had to sanitize it for Disney. I get it. You have to scrub it with bleach to make it okay for Disney. But you still could have made it properly 12 Labors of Heracles without it becoming risque. And this is it already has more adult jokes than most Disney flicks. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, just the total mythological inaccuracy of this is all I have to say.
Awesome. Number 35, Bolt, November 21st, 2008. This is the first film to be released on Blu-ray before DVD.
I don't have much to say about this. It's cute, it's fine, but it's not very memorable. John Travolta and Miley Cyrus have a good credit song. That is about it. Moving on.
Number 34, The Rescuers, July 22nd, 1977. This film's success nearly led to a spin-off TV show, but when this film's sequel was greenlit, the spin-off became Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, with Chip and Dale replacing Bernard and Bianca.
Yeah, they even had Newhart and Zsa Zsa on standby to start recording for that. But then the sequel happened, and we'll talk about the sequel in a bit.
Who did a great job with the voicing.
Oh, yeah.
Voice characters of this film.
There is nothing wrong with the voice acting. The voice acting is great. My issue is with the dreary setting, the way too over the top and out of the setting villain. That's my issue. The setting and the villain are so tonally dissonant that it is ridiculous. And also, Dad said multiple times, it is a little bit boring as far as the music goes. I love the albatross or the seagull or whatever. Wilbur? Mm-hmm. Is it Wilbur or Orville in this one?
Orville. I don't remember.
It's one of those two. I think it's Wilbur in this one and then Orville in the sequel. Or it's the other way around. Either way, I like him, but beyond him, it gets boring. It gets so boring in places. We used to use this as the nap time movie for a kid we babysat. So, and he would fall asleep during it. So, that tells you all you need to know.
Kristen pointed out in my countdown of the music, which you can see at Crossing Kin, that Madame Medusa was originally supposed to be
Cruella de Vil.
Cruella de Vil. Imagine, if you will, had they stayed with that, the villain would have been much more engaging.
And I think she maybe would have fit a little better because she would have been, this sounds awful, she would have been wearing a crocodile skin coat. She wouldn't have looked as out of place as Medusa does.
Yeah, for where it was set, the music should have been matching.
But that was your list. Move on.
Number 33, Cinderella, another Disney classic. February 5th, 1953. This is the first Disney film to get a minor franchise with 2 DVD sequels, a live-action remake, and many other associated material.
Okay, so I'm actually going to offer a bit of defense for Cinderella real quick, because so many people are mean to her, like, oh, she's so shallow, all she wanted to do was go to the ball and meet a prince. No! All she wanted to do was go to the ball! There is nowhere where she says she was after the prince. When her sisters tell her that the prince is looking for the girl he danced with last night, she's like, the prince, and drops the tray. So Cinderella, just a bit of defense for her, she was not after the prince. So stop being mean to her.
She's already getting mean.
She's already getting mean from Anastasia and Drizella. Leave her alone. They don't need your help. But anyway, Cinderella is fine. It just stinks that in order to be entertaining, we basically have to watch a Tom and Jerry cartoon in the middle of it with Lucifer chasing Jacques and Gus all over.
That's a very adept. That's very accurate. Thank you. I would have never connected that. That's very, very good.
I mean,
we love Tom and Jerry, but it didn't have any place in this film.
It didn't have any place in Cinderella. So, while Cinderella is good, and like I think I said in your video, it is what saved Walt Disney Studios in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And it deserves all the accolades it's gotten. She deserves to be one of the Disney mascots.
Without doubt.
But she is kind of the secondary character in her movie because we spend more time watching Tom and Jerry, a la Lucifer and Jacques and Gus.
Good point. Number 32, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. October 5th, 1949. Disney's original title for this movie was Two Fabulous Characters, which they are. Apparently, the only reason these two stories are linked together is the fact that their main characters are prone to disaster.
Yes, bless their hearts. These two are some of the most unlucky people in the Disney canon. I enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I would. I honestly went into it thinking I was going to hate it. I kind of love it. Although, legit, this is basically the only horror movie I've ever seen or plan to see. Because I remember not wanting to be alone in my room for at least an hour after I watched this movie, because that headless horseman scene kind of freaked me out.
It's a great film to watch at Halloween,
yes,
by the way.
I just watched this like 2 months ago for the first time, and I could not believe how much I enjoyed it. Bing Crosby, you do a great job with the Ichabod section. Basil Rathbone does the Mr. Toad section, and he does a fantastic job narrating the Mr. Toad section. I don't think he does all the voices. But yeah, I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, and I will probably start watching it at least around Halloween. At least the Ichabod section.
Basil Rathbone, as you may recall, was the original Hollywood Sherlock Holmes. He was the precursor to Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch.
And Johnny Lee Miller.
And
for those
Johnny
of you
Lee
who
Miller.
liked Elementary.
Right. And he really, as far as bringing the character to film, defined the role. And these other guys have done a very, very good job. We've loved every iteration of Sherlock Holmes that we've seen.
Yeah.
Basil Rathbone set the stage.
Yes.
But speaking of stages, let's go on to the next one that a film is on.
All right.
Number 31, Brother Bear, from November 1st, 2003. Most of the characters in this film are named for places in Alaska where the story takes place.
We rewatched this recently. I didn't remember liking it that much when I was a kid. I thoroughly enjoyed it this time around. I enjoyed the moose a little bit more this time around, but that was partially because I had Dad cracking up behind me.
Take off, eh?
He loved the moose, and I wound up loving them a little bit more because I knew who they were this time around. I knew who Rick Moranis was. Joaquin Phoenix was a surprise as Kenai's voice. It was a pleasant surprise. And guys, Michael Clarke Duncan is one of the voices of one of the bears in this movie, and anytime I hear his voice, I feel like I'm getting a big warm hug because he's got one of those voices that is the most comforting ever. It's a small section that he's in, but his voice just elevates this movie. The Phil Collins music is good. I like Phil Collins. I get that it doesn't necessarily match the setting, and I know that some people don't like this movie because of the Phil Collins music. Well, take off, eh?
For fans of Bob and Doug McKenzie from SCTV, you need to watch this film just for Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis doing their Bob and Doug McKenzie skit animated.
It's very cute.
It is awesome. And there is an adult beverage reference later on. We don't drink, but I thought it was hilarious that they were able to work that in. Just incredibly in character for
these characters.
Bob and Doug McKenzie being moose.
All right, what's next?
Number 30. We've only got 30 to go, so hang on tight.
We're getting there.
These are going to go quicker and quicker as we get closer to the top.
Yep.
Number 30, the classic Lady and the Tramp. June 22nd, 1955. To maintain the dog's perspective, Darling and June Deer's faces are rarely seen.
Okay, I like this movie quite a bit. The only reason it is this low is because I really, really, really hate those cats, and I hate that rat. I also don't appreciate Trusty getting hurt. Again, I am a dog lover, so the dog getting hurt is not something I'm okay with. There's a reason I will never watch the John Wick movies, but that is an aside for another day. Yeah. Also, just the last thing I'm going to say on this movie, because it is a perfectly cute movie, but you don't have to talk that much about it. Jacques, the older I get, the more I love that little Scottish Terrier. I love Jacques from Lady and the Tramp. He is precious. I want a Scottish Terrier because of that dog. And yeah, so yeah, Lady and the Tramp, perfectly cute. Has a couple of things I don't appreciate, otherwise it would be higher.
Following along with our pet theme, everybody wants to be a cat. Coming in at number 29 is The Aristocats, December 24th, 1970. I have to put this tag in. I love the music. This film was inspired by the true story of a Parisian family of cats in 1910 that inherited a fabulous fortune.
Yeah,
wow.
That just astounds me that it's all based on a real story. I will say this, the cat sections of this movie, perfectly good. I think the geese little side quest with the geese is funny. And Phil Harris is a fabulous voice as Thomas O'Malley. Although his very American accent does stick out in Paris. but there are a lot of accents getting thrown around, so I'm not going to complain about it too much. My only complaint with this movie is that it has the lamest Disney villain in existence in Edgar. He is so dumb. Dude, the cats aren't going to spend the money. You can spend the money after the old lady kicks it. The cats are gonna miss it.
Wow.
So yeah, like again, I hate the villain from Home on the Range. Edgar's just lame.
We've already mentioned or referenced this film, so for it to come in at number 28 is probably not such a surprise. Wreck-It Ralph from November 2nd, 2012. Unlike most animated films, the principal cast did many of their recording sessions together, a situation which led to much improvisation from the cast.
I cannot believe how much I liked Wreck-It Ralph. I'm not a video game person. The closest I've come is playing the Lego games on the Wii, which tells you how behind I am as far as video game systems go.
We have a Wii U.
Anyway, this movie is so charming. This movie is so cool. If you are at all a gamer, it harkens back to arcade games and some first-person shooters, racing games. Like, it is so cool. And the number of characters that Disney was able to license, Sonic makes a cameo in this. One of the guys from Street Fighters makes a cameo in this. Pac-Man makes a cameo in this. Like, there's so many cute video game. Tapper, for those of you who know that old arcade game, has a cameo in this. Like, it's so cool and so charming. A standout for me is the character of Fix-It Felix. I can't remember who does his voice. And the character played by Jane Lynch, Calhoun. They are precious. They are actually kind of up there in the best Disney couples as far as I'm concerned. Ralph and Vanellope's friendship is charming. I wish this charm had carried over to the sequel, but it didn't. But this movie, so I choose to view this as a standalone movie, so that I can keep all of the charm nice and safe. Also, Alan Tudyk does a great job as the villain in this flick.
Hey, Kristen.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to build a snowman?
I wish. It's very warm in this garage.
It's hot in the garage. Olaf would melt, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
but it is becoming summer. Coming in at number 27 is the bombastic hit Frozen. It redefined Disney animation when it came out in November 27th of 2013 and had a gazillion little child screaming at the top of their lungs.
Let it go!
Which we wish they had. Anyway, the film changed course during production. Elsa was originally going to be the villain of the movie, which is easy to see, but because Let It Go sounded like such a powerful anthem, which it was, the crew shifted the story to where she was the protagonist.
Alright, two things. One, I really want to see the version of this flick where Elsa stays the villain. I don't care if she gets redeemed by the end so that we can all be nice and happy. But I would have liked to see a more proper version of Hans Christian Andersen's Snow Queen, which is where all of this is kind of, sort of, ish taken.
Right.
You wouldn't even really have to change. That's a what if for another day. Also, I'm in the minority. I like the opening song better than most of the rest of the score. I like the Frozen Heart with the saws at the beginning. I don't know if it's that I like the more... It sounds almost Celtic. I know we're set in Norway with this, but it sounds a little bit Celtic with those flutes. It harkens back to Tangled a little bit with that opening number. But that's kind of an aside. Beyond that, I don't get the hype. I don't ride the hype. And yeah, Frozen's here in the middle of the pack for a reason. I don't have that much to say.
But perhaps a little overrated. Number 26, Pocahontas. Coming in, releasing at June 23rd, 1995. Sean Bean, from Lord of the Rings fans, was considered for the role of John Smith. However, Disney felt that they needed an actor better known to American audiences and chose Mel Gibson.
I like Pocahontas, but I have to approach it from this is a historical fiction standpoint. I've read history books, so I know that this is definitely not the true story of Pocahontas. But then they have the grandmother Willow voiced by Linda Hunt thrown in there, which I know that Pocahontas in real life did not have a magical willow tree, so it's neither here nor there.
Linda Hunt from NCIS Los Angeles.
And Tootsie, I think. A bunch of other stuff. She's a very prolific actress. Beyond that, it's a very pretty animated movie. I don't have that much to say about it. It's always kind of been one of my middle range movies.
It's one of the only Disney ballads that I really even like. It's Colors of the Wind. So, let's move on. Only 25 more to go.
We're trying.
Don't worry. We'll get there. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. June 21st, 1996 is when the film was released. The Latin chants heard throughout the movie are adapted from actual Gregorian chants, including a portion of the Dies Irae music that can be heard in the scene where Frollo kills Quasimodo's mother. It was part of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's famous last composition, Requiem in D minor. Tom Hulce plays Quasimodo, and he also played Mozart in the movie Amadeus.
This was one of those movies I didn't see when it initially came out, for obvious reasons. I was born the year this came out. But it was one of those movies that I didn't really revisit until I was an adult, or at least an older teenager. And I was surprised by how much I liked it. There are some weird animation moments, and those stupid gargoyles risk ruining it. If those gargoyles had been edited out, this movie would be higher. But they weren't, so it isn't. Otherwise, I like the movie, but I really do wish that Kevin Kline's Phoebus had gotten a song because it's Kevin Kline. But moving on.
Kevin Kline needed a song.
Moving on.
Number 24, Meet the Robinsons. March 30th of 2007. It features the voices of Angela Bassett. She played Mildred, the owner of the orphanage. The actress would go on to play Queen Ramonda in the MCU for Marvel, specifically Black Panther.
Yes.
A Disney-owned company.
We love Angela Bassett in this house, and she does a phenomenal job. She's not one of the main characters, but her voice has such a sweet, comforting sense to it that any scene she's in is automatically a little bit better. This movie is very simple, very sweet, and it's what the live-action movie Tomorrowland wishes it was. This movie is founded on the basis of Walt Disney's motto of keep moving forward, and it's just precious and lovely, and I don't have much to say about it. It's very simple and sweet, and it's awesome. It's good. It's really, really good.
Bowler Hat Man is
Bowler
a great
Hat
villain.
Guy is a good villain, and he's one of the few Disney villains that we're actually rooting for redemption for.
Right.
So, yeah, moving right on.
Number 23, Encanto, November 24th, 2021. As of the recording of this video, this is the most recent Disney animated musical, as well as the company's 60th animated feature.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, you write some really good music. Unlike Dad, I actually really do like the music for this movie, but I do have a reason that I like this movie as much as I do. This movie became a bit of a comfort movie for me. I was sick the day I watched this movie, like sicker than I had been in a while, and so I turned on this movie and it actually made me feel better because it gave me some positivity going on. Also, I think part of the reason I like this movie is that I connect to the sister aspect of it. I connect to Mirabelle on the level of I am the youngest of 3 sisters, so I can connect to it through that lens. And while I am not the fan anymore of Disney not having villains, or because we don't have Disney villains anymore, we have misunderstood and redeemable people. I don't mind it in this case because I get Abuela has a lot of trauma. But Disney, this new movie that I saw a trailer for, Wish, it had better have a legit villain. It looks like it does, but it better have a legit villain. So I like Encanto. I like the music. I like the characters. I wish maybe it had an actual villain, but it's neither here nor there. It's not the strongest Disney flick I've ever seen, but it is by far from the worst.
Speaking of Disney villains, Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil. Okay, moving on. 101 Dalmatians comes in at number 22. Came out on January 25th of 1961. That was even before I was born. Clarence Nash, best known as the voice of Donald Duck, did all of the dog barks for this film. Please tell me you're going to mention the newest Cruella.
Absolutely. We talked about it a little bit in one of our earliest videos with Cross and Kin, our costumes with Cornelius. Hopefully there's a card somewhere up here above our heads about that. Cruella is fabulous. And
the film, Cruella.
The character of Cruella is fabulous as well.
I agree, yeah.
But yeah, I look forward to Emma Stone's Cruella 2. I sincerely hope it comes out sooner rather than later because I look forward to it. I like the original Cruella film quite a bit. So yeah, that's one of those live action remakes I am completely cool with. But talking about 101 Dalmatians, I like it. It gets off to a really, really slow start. But once we get to the Twilight Bark, we're good. Once we get to the Twilight Bark, I'm vibing with you and we're going all the way. Cruella de Vil is one of the best Disney villain songs ever. Even if she doesn't actually sing it, it's fabulous. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Imagine, if you would, Tim Burton directing the next Cruella.
Let's not.
Moving on. Number 21, Moana. November 23rd, 2016. Lin-Manuel Miranda has said that the character of Tamatoa, the giant crab, is a tribute to the late, great David Bowie. Absolutely perfect. Yes.
I like Moana a lot. I don't think it deserves the live action remake that it's about to get. I think it's too new to deserve a live action remake personally. But beyond that, I like it quite a bit. We watched it over and over again because there for a while it was one of my nephew's favorite movies. Maui is fun. Moana is a good protagonist. I like the chicken Hey Hey, who is voiced by Alan Tudyk. I kid you not. Alan Tudyk was brought into a booth for probably like 3 hours to scream into a microphone. I would like to see that recording session, quite honestly. But yeah, Moana's fine. Again, I think this movie was the beginning of the trend of Disney not having villains, and that's a shame because I kind of hold that against it. I miss Disney villains. So yeah, that's really the only thing I have against Moana. It started the trend of Disney not having villains. The animation is lovely. All of the effects for the water are gorgeous. Last thing I want to say, Boba Fett does the speaking voice for Moana's dad, and Christopher Jackson, who I love. If you are a fan of anything Lin-Manuel Miranda does, he is George Washington in the original cast of Hamilton.
Number 20, only 20 more to go. The Emperor's New Groove, December 15th, 2000. This film was originally going to be a South American epic, even featuring a villain song for Yzma. But time and budget became an issue, and eventually the film became a buddy comedy movie. You can find a rough version of Yzma's song online, which I believe was recorded by Eartha Kitt.
I would have loved if that song had somehow made its way back into the movie because Eartha Kitt was an amazing singer. But beyond that, this movie is underrated. This movie is criminally underrated. I know it's at number 20. There are just a lot of Disney movies, guys. There are a lot of Disney movies that I love. The comedy, beautiful. Kronk is a prince. Kronk is a prince. I love Kronk.
And David Spade is so exquisite as the Emperor.
As Cusco, yeah. David Spade is great as Cusco. Patrick Warburton is great as Kronk. Oh gosh, I can't remember Pacha's voice's name. I'm
Danny.
sorry. No. It's
John
Thank
Goodman.
you! Katie's off screen. She just shouted at us. John Goodman does a fantastic job as Pacha's voice. So yeah, And Eartha Kitt as Yzma. She is probably, of the 2000s, she's the best Disney villain of the 2000s.
Number 19, a Goofy movie. Oh, gosh. April 7th, 1995. The Lester's Possum Pals show that Goofy Takes Max to is a clear parody of Disney's own Country Bear Jamboree.
This was one of my favorite movies as a kid. I remember, we have the tape here behind us. But yeah, I wore this tape out. I'm not even sure if it'll still play. Dad can attest to this. He would come home and find me watching Goofy movie all the time when I was little. I loved it as a kid. The music is iconic. Y'all are sleeping on the soundtrack to Goofy movie. Y'all are so obsessed with Frozen. Y'all are sleeping on Goofy movie's soundtrack.
It's good. Very, very good.
So very good. Goofy movie's awesome.
Number 18. Lilo and Stitch, June 21st, 2002. Along with The Princess and the Frog, this is one of the only two films from the Walt Disney Animation Studios released in the 2000s to meet with critical praise and make its money back in its initial theatrical run.
Lilo and Stitch is precious. I love it to pieces. I am actually kind of looking forward to the live action remake of it because it means we'll get all of the sci-fi stuff in glorious live action. I love sci-fi movies, so spaceship battles are kind of my jam. Again, this is one of those where I can connect to the characters on the level of I have sisters, therefore I completely get the Lilo and Nani dynamic. And all the characters are completely charming. Pleakley and Jumba kind of get on my nerves sometimes. Beyond that, I love this movie.
Number 17, Mulan. It came out June 19th of 1998. Actress Ming-Na Wen, one of our favorite actresses, who voices Mulan, is one of only a handful of people to appear in 3 separate Disney company properties. In her case, Disney Princess through this film, the MCU through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as the book, no, that's Star Wars. And Star Wars through The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and The Bad Batch.
She also has an appearance in the live-action remake of Mulan. It's a cameo, but she's there. Mulan is another one of those movies that I watched ad nauseum. My sisters can attest that I got the credit song "True to Your Heart" by Stevie Wonder and 98 Degrees stuck in my head, but I only knew the chorus, so that was all I would sing over and over and over again. Beyond that, I think this is the movie that probably made me love epic fantasy battle type stuff. I've spoken before of my love of Lord of the Rings. I think a lot of that stems from Mulan. So yeah, I like Mulan quite a bit. Mushu is probably one of my favorite animated sidekicks for heroes, and I loved Eddie Murphy.
And the lack of his inclusion on the live action is a travesty.
I think their goal there was try to make it more grounded, but then we have this weird phoenix bird thing from what I've seen, and you were sleeping on Mushu. I'm sure Eddie Murphy would have done it if you asked.
Yeah. So, let's get down to business, shall we? Number 16, Tarzan, June 18th, 1999. The animators for this film took inspiration for Tarzan's movements through the trees from skateboarders, surfers, and snowboarders.
Tarzan is probably one of the more geared towards the boys movies that I can think of, but I remember seeing it as a kid and adoring it. I think I just geared for action movies, and this is probably one of the more action-y movies that Disney has. The animation is sleek and beautiful. The songs by Phil Collins are earworms that I do not mind having stuck in my head all day. The villain of Clayton is terrifying and gets an equally terrifying demise. This movie just ticks all the good boxes for me.
Right.
And I find Jane and Tarzan's romance believable because we don't actually know how many days are passing during their whole thing. So they actually have time to get to know one another before they commit to each other forever.
And then again, there's that whole fan theory that we talked about.
Yeah,
earlier.
Tarzan might actually be a prince, guys.
Anyway, Number
He's
15.
King of the Jungle.
King of the Jungle. Why does he need to be a prince? Number 15. Coming in 15 is Big Hero 6. It was released November the 7th of 2014. This is the first Disney film to show its title at the end of the film and not at the beginning.
If you can't tell by my shirt, I'm a Marvel fan. And this is also technically a Marvel movie. It is based on Marvel Comics. It takes massive liberties with the characters. I'm not going to go into all of that. But I found this movie incredibly cool and charming. The characters are precious. It has, the only negative I have about it is its twist villain. I don't appreciate the twist villain in this because it makes a character sacrifice at the beginning of the movie meaningless. And I hate that. That feels mean-spirited to have that twist villain, and then you think about it and you're like, crap, that means that happened for nothing. So, yeah, that is the only reason Big Hero 6 isn't higher than this. I genuinely like it.
Okay.
And Baymax is cool. Baymax is just something you want to hug.
Very good. I'm feeling a little rumbly in my tumbly, so we must move ahead. Number 14, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. The real one. Mm-hmm. Released March 11th of 1977. Trigger's trademark woo-hoo-hoo laugh was ad-libbed by actor Paul Winchell, as well as his favorite ta-ta for now, TTFN line at the suggestion of his wife.
I find that fact awesome. I don't know why, but I do. This movie, I think this was probably one of those movies I watched on repeat as well as a kid. I remember singing Up, Down, Touch the Ground quite often. The exercise song, I sang it a lot. For a little while, it was another of my nephew's favorite songs. He would sing it and it would be adorable. Little Black Rain Cloud is precious. All of the characters are precious. This is how you characterize the Winnie the Pooh characters. This is how it's done. People who made the 2011 Winnie the Pooh, this is how it's done.
Leave it be. This is perfect. Now, number 13, The Princess and the Frog, December 11th, 2009. The character of Ray, the Firefly, is voiced by veteran Disney and voice acting legend Jim Cummings.
He is a legend. He is incredible. And him alone would honestly be worth the price of admission because I love that Firefly. The music, Dad talked about how good it is in his video. I legit like all of the characters. This is one of those movies where I can legitimately say I like every single one of the characters. Now, yes, there are some redneck stereotype things that do take place in this, which I don't appreciate that much, but I do acknowledge that there are people that are like that. Naveen and Tiana are a cool relationship. My only real complaint with this movie is that I wish that they hadn't both been Brogs for so long. I wish that either we'd A, gotten to spend more time with Naveen as a human at the beginning, or B, Tiana didn't become a frog. I don't know how you would do that. I don't know how you would change it. I think we spend a little too much time with them both as frogs. I think one or the other of them should have had a few less minutes as a frog.
Very good. Number 12.
Also, the villain is amazing. Keith David, Friends on the Other Side, that is my jam. I'm sorry.
No worries. Coming in at number 12 is The Rescuers Down Under. It came out November 16th of 1990. Now, despite being set in Australia, good day, mate, the main characters of Cody and McLeach don't have Australian accents, mate.
Neither do
many side characters, like Cody's mother, do have accents.
We apologize to Australia for Dad's accent.
Sorry.
This movie is amazing. Just the opening bit with Cody and Marahute, the giant eagle, I think is what she's meant to be, is gorgeous. I saw a thing on YouTube, I don't remember what it was, but they said that this film is awful. I've never felt the urge to be so mad at a YouTuber in my life.
Perhaps they were talking about the original
No, they were talking about Rescuers Down Under. They say it multiple times. And I don't know. I don't know what his problem with Rescuers Down Under was. This movie is awesome. This movie has Bernard with the same plot that Kristoff has in Frozen 2, but this time it doesn't come off dumb. It just doesn't. It's amazing. Credit to Bob Newhart for managing to handle that plot line. Anyway, these characters, this movie, I love every last bit of it.
Good film.
Great
much
film.
better than the original.
Yes.
This is one of those occasions where the sequel is better than the original.
All right, what's next?
Number 11, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, June 15th, 2001. Because the movie was planned out as an action adventure, the production crew wore t-shirts to work that read, Atlantis, fewer songs, more explosions.
I love this movie. This was one of the first movies I watched when Disney Plus launched, because it was always a movie I was curious about, but I could never find it. I was a kid when it came out, 2002?
2001.
2001. I would have been 5. I would have been 5 when this came out. So obviously I wasn't going to see it in theaters. But y'all, this movie is good. Yes, there are some moments that could have been edited. Yes, there are some weird moments. I don't care.
What film doesn't have those
This
stuff?
movie is so good. It takes the legend of Atlantis and does it in such an interesting way. Leonard Nimoy is one of the voices of Star Trek fame. Michael J. Fox of Back to the Future fame voices Milo. It's an ensemble cast, and I'm one of those people that prefers ensemble casts wherever I can get them. So the ensemble cast, and they're all charming and beautiful and lovely, and its straight to video sequel is not good, but this movie is fantastic. We've reached number 10, hooray!
Here's the top 10, moving right along. At number 10 is the film Treasure Planet. It debuted in theaters November 27th of 2002. Now, a sequel was planned with Willem Dafoe set to voice the villainous Ironbeard, but it was canceled based on the film's failure at the box office. Kristen has it rated at number 10. So,
the film's failure at the box office is Disney's fault. They marketed this movie terribly. They spoil the twist, and they focus on the robot, Bob, voiced by Martin Short. Martin Short was probably not the person who should have played Bob. He doesn't do a terrible job, but he doesn't do a great job. I think maybe somebody like Jack Black would have been a little bit better in this role. But I'm partial to Jack Black. Beyond that, it's a great movie. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I believe, is the voice of Jim in this, and Emma Thompson plays the cat captain lady. It's Treasure Island in space. For those of you who have read the Robert Louis Stevenson book, it is so cool and so imaginative. The animation is legitimately great. It was just marketed and torpedoed by Disney. Disney is the reason this movie failed. This was a passion project by its directors. This is the movie that deserves a live action remake, Disney. This is the movie that could benefit so much from one of those. I can already think of at least one actor, Tanner Buchanan from Cobra Kai, the one who plays Johnny's son, to play Jim. I think it would be phenomenal. Get on it, Disney. We don't want Moana. We want Treasure Planet.
you heard it here first, folks. Coming in at number 9 now is The Jungle Book. October 18th, 1967. The film's ending departs from the original Rudyard Kipling book by having Mowgli go into the man village. In the book, he stays in the jungle with his friends.
Yeah, I love this movie. I know for a fact that I did wear out our tape because Dad had to get us a replacement. That was actually one of the last things you got us from Hastings, a replacement of the Jungle Book tape. We have that tape right here, actually. I love this movie. It was Dad's number 1. It's my number 9. So clearly at the Cross household, this movie rocks. Its live action remake is nowhere near as good. This movie is perfect, just about. The Vultures as a Beatles send up, which they actually were offered the role and just couldn't because of scheduling stuff. Shere Khan is a terrifying villain voiced by Tony Jay, who would go on to voice Frollo in Hunchback of Notre Dame. The only real issue I have is Mowgli. He's kind of a boring main character, but we're not here for Mowgli. We're here for Baloo and Bagheera and King Louie and Shere Khan and Kaa to an extent. But yeah, Jungle Book, it's phenomenal.
Number 8, Beauty and the Beast, November 22nd, 1991. The last phrase of Cogsworth's line, flowers, chocolates, promises you don't intend to keep, was ad-libbed by the great David Ogden Stiers.
Which I liked that line always, so the fact that it was an ad-lib makes it even cooler to me. Yeah, Beauty and the Beast, it was one that I grew up with. In later years, I've come to question parts of it heavily, especially the line, 10 years we've been rusting. Wait, does that mean he was 11 when he got cursed? So, yeah, there's a whole time dilation thing that we kind of take issue with here. But anyway, Beauty and the Beast, it's great. It's a landmark of Disney. It's Renaissance. It won like 2 Academy Awards, I believe. It's Alan Menken at his finest. First Disney movie to become a Broadway play. Gaston is a terrifying villain because he's a villain that could actually exist in real life very easily. And yeah, it's just magical.
And Angela Lansbury.
How could I forget?
Number 7, The Great Mouse Detective, one of our favorite films. July 2nd, 1986. Ratigan was originally designed to look thin and weak. But when Vincent Price, the horror movie king, was chosen to play the role, fulfilling a lifelong dream of Price's, Ratigan's appearance was changed accordingly.
You know your movie's going to be good when Vincent Price is ecstatic to be your villain.
Yes.
Ratigan is probably the scariest villain to me, especially at the end in the clock tower when his suit is all torn and he's clearly going mad. Also, I just now realized that Basil of Baker Street is probably named after Basil Rathbone. Just made that connection. Thank you for pointing out that he was Sherlock Holmes earlier, Daddy.
You're welcome.
This movie is fantastic. Voice cast, amazing. Animation, glorious. Story, perfectly gothic and atmospheric for the kind of gothic setting of London in which we exist. That stupid bat always gave me a jump scare at the beginning of the movie. That bat was my first jump scare ever. But I still came back to this movie. It did not give me childhood trauma. I love this movie. Going back to it as an adult, I actually get some of the stuff that was happening in the bar scene, but aside from that...
Number 6!
Moving on!
And Wilbur from Mr. Ed, Alan Young.
Yes. Alan Young is a voice that I've always known because he is a voice character in Adventures in Odyssey, which I still listen to today. And Alan Young was part of it for a very long time, and he is a precious, precious actor to my family.
Number 6, Oliver and Company, November 18th, 1988. Pongo from 101 Dalmatians and Jock, Trusty, Peg and Lady from Lady and the Tramp all make appearances during the Why Should I Worry song by Billy Joel, baby.
This movie has more talent in it than it knows what to do with.
You're right.
It is
Yeah.
Oliver Twist with animals and set in New York City. A lot of people don't like this movie because it is very clearly set in the 80s. I think that unlike Wreck-It Ralph, which is very obvious, or Ralph Breaks the Internet rather, which is obviously a 2018 movie, this movie, yes, you can tell where it's set, but that kind of gives it a timeless quality.
Sure.
It gives it a nostalgic quality. I think Oliver and his relationship with Jenny is precious. While the Good Company song isn't the strongest in the score, it is a very precious moment in the score, and the young lady that sings it does a fantastic job. Dodger is very cool. Yeah, Billy Joel isn't the most fabulous of voice actors, but everybody else seems to do a great job. Bette Midler as Georgette is oddly good as an antagonist turned friend, and then everybody else is just grand. I love it.
Coming in at number 5, the top 5. The top 5. This is the ones you've been waiting for. Is Aladdin. November 25th, 1992. During the recording sessions, the late, great Robin Williams' ad-libs were so extensive that he had over 16 hours of material. How would you like a CD of that stuff? However, since so many of his improvised lines were used in the film, this kept the script from being nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay by the Academy Awards.
What can I say about Aladdin that hasn't already been said? Robin Williams is great. Steve from Full House does a great job. Jafar is a perfectly terrifying villain. I love this movie.
It's
so
one of
much.
those things that really did solidify Disney in the 90s. So, speaking of the 90s Disney films, number 4, The Lion King, Hakuna Matata. June 24th, 1994. Voice actor Frank Welker provided all the roars for the lions. Not a single recording of an actual lion roaring was used because producers wanted specific sounding roars for each lion. Surprised roar, sad roar, shocked roar.
Anyway, again, this is one of those movies that has been talked about ad nauseum, so I don't feel I need to spend a ton of time on it. It is Disney. This movie is Disney.
Quintessential Disney.
It is the one Disney movie that if you are a fan, you have watched at least a dozen times, if not 5 dozen, which I think I have watched it about 5 dozen times. So yeah, I love it. I love the characters. Scar is not one of my favorite Disney villains, but you know, I like his villain song quite a bit. So, yes.
Number 3. Top 3. Robin Hood. We love this film. November 8th, 1973. This was the first film released on VHS under the Walt Disney Classics line.
This movie, y'all, I know it is surprising that it's up here at number 3, but I completely adore it. I love Robin Hood. I love all things Robin Hood for the most part. This is my Robin Hood. Kevin Costner can go away. I love this Robin Hood. This is mine. Yeah, the music, fabulous. I don't mind the animation. I think it kind of lends itself to the aesthetic of the film. I know a lot of people hate the Xerox and reused animation. I don't care.
Number 2, our top 2. These may or may not be surprises. Number 2, The Little Mermaid, November 17th, 1989. Ariel is the first Disney princess to have biological siblings.
I just found that an interesting fact. Yeah, again, this is one of those that I don't feel I need to explain why it is as high as it is. This is The Little Mermaid. It was the beginning of the Disney Renaissance. Its animation is glorious. Its villain is delightfully bad. Its love interest actually has a personality, which is more than I can say for most Disney princes. Thank you, Prince Eric, for bothering to have a personality. And a dog that you save. Yay, dog lovers.
And it's gotten the live action remake that is
soon, yeah.
coming very soon, if not already out by the time this airs. Mm-hmm. Now, you've waited all this time for number 1. This is Kristen's number 1 pick. Again, remember, Kristen's opinion. If you have a different number 1 Disney film, please let us know in the comments, or just let us know. Number 1, Tangled. November 24th, 2010. Rapunzel was the third Disney princess to have both of her parents alive.
Considering how many Disney princesses there are, that is kind of a sad thing.
That's true.
But
the 2 before her were Aurora and Mulan.
I love this movie with a passion. The voice acting by Mandy Moore and Zachary Levi, it's some of the best quality ever in a Disney film. The storyline is fantastic. Again, the villain is legit scary because she could be a real person.
She's just creepy.
She's creepy. She's gaslighting Rapunzel the whole time. Like, I've read so many things saying, yeah, she could totally be a real person, or yeah, I've had a person in my life like that. The spin-off show, or the sequel show rather, Tangled the series, or whatever you want to call it, it has multiple names, continued the story beautifully with the same cast. I love this movie. Every song is a bop to me. I know you don't like the ballad. I love I See the Light. And yeah, Rapunzel is just one of the best Disney princesses to me. She is bursting with personality and life and joy and optimism. Also, Maximus and Pascal are some of the best animal sidekicks forever. I love them. And I love Tangled, and it is my number one.
Well, there you have it. It's been a long journey, but we made it through all of the Disney animated films. That's Kristen's ranking of every theatrically released animated movie that Walt Disney Studios has to offer. How did she do? How does Kristen's list stack up to others? Are we right? Let us know in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And be sure to click the bell to be notified of our next upload. We've only just begun here at Crossing Kin, and we want all of you to be a part of it. So, leave us your ideas in the comments or contact us at crosskin6496@gmail.com. Kristen, final thoughts?
Nope, just thank y'all for coming along. Let us know what y'all think, and if y'all would like us to rank any other animated movies or otherwise. I am serious about possibly doing a top 10 Disney villains for Halloween.
That's great. And also don't forget to go check out my video of counting down the top Disney music for the movies.
There should be a card somewhere up here. There should have been one at the beginning. I will also try to link it in the description.
And now, once again, from the Crossing Kin Garage, where everyone's family, we will tell you, we can't wait till next time. I'm Randy.
And I'm Kristen.
Welcome. See ya from the Crossing Kin Garage. We're out.
Bye.